Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Sumukascha ekadantascha kapilo gajakarnakaha lambodharascha vikato vignarajo vinayakaha dhoomaketur ganadhyakshaha phalachandro gajananaha vakratundaha surpakarno herambaha skandapurvajaha suklam bharadharam vishnum sasivarnam chaturbhujam प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये यस्य विरजवक्त्राभ्याः पारिषद्भ्याः परस्सतं विघ्नं विघ्नन्ति सततं विश्वक्सेनं तमाश्रये गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुसाक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय कृष्णाय अक्लिष्टकारिणे नमो वेदान्तवेद्याय गुरवे बुद्धिसाक्षिणे कृष्णद्वैपायनं व्यासं सर्वभूतहिते रतं वेदाब्जभास्करं वन्दे समाधिनिलयं मुनिं जन्माद्यस्य यतः अन्वयात् इतरतश्च अर्थेषु अभिघ्नः स्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदायः आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत् सूरयः तेजोवारिमृदां यथा विनिमयः यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि गर्वः प्रोचिधकैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सताम् वेद्यं वास्तवम् अत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम् श्रीमद् भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृदि अवरुध्यतेः अत्र कृतिभिः स्पृशिभिः तत्क्षणात् निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं सुखमुखात् अमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिकाः भुवि भावुकाः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमम् देवी सरस्वती व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्. Now with Bhagavan's grace, let us continue. We came up to Slokam number 34 yesterday, Adhyayam 28, Skandham number 3. Bhagavan describes how the mind decouples, how the mind goes away. Okay. And evam haro bhagavati pratilabdha bhavaha bhaktya dravat dhrudaya utpulakaha pramodat autkantya bhashma kalaya muhu ardhamanase tat cha api chitta bhadisam sanakaihi viyumte completely immersed in Bhagavan, in the bliss, with tremendous love pouring out uncontrollably, streams of Ananda Kannir, the blissful tears pouring out uncontrollably from the eyes, and the hairs all over the body standing on edge, again and again and again, immersing repeatedly the exhilarations, the spiritual exhilarations, are like they come in continuous attacks. Okay, it's unbelievable. That then at that time, being immersed in this, the mind of the sadhaka, viyunte, it decouples, it removes, it goes away, it leaves him, the mind leaves him. Now the mind, as we saw earlier, was used as an ankusam, as a hook, to capture Bhagavan. And that ankusam, that hook, is now like a way you put a hook to catch fish. The mind is only a hook. The fish to be caught is Bhagavan. So once the fish is caught, what use is the hook? That is given away. like that. But Buddhism means it's a hook. That goes away. Now, this is a very beautiful stage, at least we can enjoy and partake. And with Bhagavan's grace, we will experience this stage, each one of us, at the allotted time when we carry out the allotted activities in the prescribed manner. This will definitely happen. It is assured. So only free will I have. Let's talk about free will for a minute. What happens in our life is destiny. It is Purva Karmanu Rupam. We saw that earlier. Okay? Yattad Bhavatu Bhavyam Bhagavan Purva Karmanu Rupam. Whatever is happening and whatever is going to happen, oh Swami, that is only the form of my previous karmas. The way I thought, the way I spoke, and the way I acted. Right? So it comes back to me, the Papangal and Punyangal and all that. That's all it is. There's nothing more than that. Now, so what happens is destiny. That is destined to happen. Yel labase is a karmopatam vittam, is what all Shankara Bhagavan says. Yet labase nityam karmopata, from karma upata vittam, from all the karmangal that I have done. Karma means thoughts, words, and actions. Always remember that, always. Whatever happens because nija karma pata vittam, that means whatever I have done, truthfully, I cannot hide, I cannot run away, there's no place to hide. Okay, I have to reap the benefits of whatever karmas I have done, whatever I thought, whatever I spoke, and whatever I did physically. There's no escape from it. That phalam I have to bear. I have to receive, accept it as Bhagavan's prasadam. Now, that one vittam, tena vinodaya chittam. So, with that, be happy with the prasada buddhi. Chittam means mind, the thought process. Receive it as Bhagavan's blessing, because that equation is now fulfilled. So, you have to nullify all these equations, isn't it? So be happy with that. Develop contentment. Okay, so that is the basic introduction. Now, and so the mind is the mind we saw earlier, again to recap, okay, likes and dislikes, main ragam and dvesham, okay, the two main enemies that we have. Okay, ragam, the desire especially, my God, unbelievable. And that's the root cause for everything. And that creates various instability and the sankalpanga. This is what I want to do, this I don't want to do. All those things, the various things happen. Then the mind, then the thought process, then the memory, then the forgetfulness, then the loss of memory, then the doubts that arise, then the understanding aspect of it. And then there is also the impulse that says, look to what is permanent. Look to the love within you. All these are now encompassed here. Using the thinking ability, using the discipline skills that we have been given with the shraddha that is inherent in each one of us, then I focus on Bhagavan, do the activities prescribed. Finally, I come to the stage where I'm completely immersed in Him. At this time, the mind leaves. It has done its job. So it leaves. That's the stage we come. So, with Bhagavan's grace, let us take up a very beautiful, share a beautiful thing that happened to Parikshit before he merged with Krishna. Very important. And this, it's only with Bhagavan's grace we are even able to listen to this. So, Sukamuni has come to teach the Parikshit on the banks of Ganga. Then the king Parikshit tells Rishi Swami, the miracles of Krishna are wonderful, wondrous. Bhagavan is prepared to assume any burden to correct and improve the world. Okay, will anybody do that? The kind of difficulty that Krishna went through, that Rama went through, just we read the stories and we move away. But anybody do that for the sake of others? Think for a second. That is Bhagavan. Then, but Swami, he does in Avataram, his divinity is manifested. Unexpectedly, the divinity manifests itself. We all know it cannot be human. It has got to be divine. But then Maya sets these subtle hordes on man's mind and hides it. The man is incapable of recognizing divinity. Now, then he misses the inner significance of the so-called miracles performed by Avataranga. Krishna lifting the Govardhana mountain, we think it's a miracle. But for Swami, there is no miracle, period. I mean, we call it as miracle. It's Ascharyam for us. But Bhagavan, who's created everything, turns the sky into the earth and the earth into sky, none of that, okay? But we miss it. Then the sage told the Parikshit king the confusing influence of Maya is, why does it take place? It's a consequence of accumulated activities in previous lives. Very important statement. So, realizing this, I must conduct a current life and my activities properly. The confusing influence of the Maya is the result of the accumulated activities of our previous life. Now, we can escape this Maya through good consequence. But at the same time, if I subject myself to it, then for me, non-beneficial consequences results. If I've done lots of good activities in my previous life, then any evil tendencies I have in this will be overshadowed, will be overtaken, okay, will be won over by all the good tendencies I have. And then faith in Bhagavan, the divinity will strengthen. Then I'll attach myself to God more and more and then spend my life on this basis. It's a very simple equation. Now, on the other hand, if I committed horrible crimes in the past life, then my life currently will be very dark only, will be very cruel, will be very miserable. And I cannot see God at all. I will run away. How many people really trust me or really interested in listening to Bhagavatam? Why some people are attracted and some people shy away? The moment you say Bhagavad Gita, why some people run away? Why some people are attracted to it? Think. It's all the result of previous activities. And the person who runs away at the very sight of scriptures and shastras and upanyasangal and satsangs and all that, that refuses to see the play of Bhagavan and then doesn't really care for his own good or for the good for others. He looks at things in a very false perspective. He revels in wickedness and engages in vicious acts. But faith in God, the Shraddha in God, the mind turning to God, is the harvest of the seeds planted in previous lives. It cannot be grown and harvested on the spur of the moment. Now, so the papangal, the punyangal, the merits and the demerits, Bhagavan himself says, whatever, if you have earned my darshan, it is a result of your the punya karmas, he says. Okay? So, the papangal and the punyangal we did previously, that's what results in whether I have strong faith in Bhagavan, whether I want to pursue spiritual path, doing good to others, wanting to do good to others, or I move away from Bhagavan. Very simple. So where does this taste come from? As I shared with you, Adi Shankara Bhagavad says, this ruchi of spirituality, of taste, the taste to taste divinity. Okay, that inclination itself comes from koti janma punya karma praptihi. Okay? And without that, na labhyate, cannot be obtained. So that is very important. Naturally, then the question comes, and the king asks, Swami, then I want to know more about these punyangal and papangal, the good activities and the evil activities and the karmas that is a result of that, how that impacts the life of men. So, can you please tell me, sir, Swami, some incident from Krishna's life? Because Parikshit was only interested in Krishna, nothing else. Anything and everything he wanted to know only about Krishna. I said, when during his avatar, when Krishna was roaming the earth, what anything there that where he dealt with a curse and then how he got cured, and that illustrates the principle of destiny. So after this question, he said, King, there are so many curses that Krishna cured. Okay? Like various Rakshasas whom he killed while he was yet a child and later as a boy. As I told you, we're all cursed to be born, so as punishment for some evil deed. And when they went with death at Krishna's hands, they were liberated from the curse. Then Parikshit asked Sukamuni, Swami, I've heard about this thing about this, how the tree got uprooted. An amazing incident, outstanding importance. Now, can you please elaborate on that for me? Sukha was ever ready to oblige. Okay? Because it's a very sincere request from a sincere bhakta. He said, King, listen, even though they had no shortage of servants, Yasoda, who was the mistress of this house, because Nanda was the ruler of that place, and Yasoda was his wife. But they had lots of servants, but still every morning, according to traditional custom, she did all the household chores. Boiling the milk, curdling it, churning it, preparing butter. Everything was personally done by her. So, one day she woke up as usual at the beginning of Brahma Muhurtam, 4:30 a.m. She took her bath and did her morning duties. Then she placed a milk pot before her and started churning the contents and vigorously pulling the ropes that kept the churn rod steady in the liquid. And at the same time, she was singing beautiful bhajans and stotra. Very auspicious time, very auspicious environment, extremely auspicious things happen. Now, Krishna, the little Gopala, the small boy, and he was sleeping. He got up, came with very slow but steady steps to where his mother was churning and singing. And then he gave a sudden, sharp pull on her sari, on the end of her sari. Yasoda was startled on this unexpected pull, turned around, and was so pleasantly surprised to see this little baby was there, Krishna. So then she stopped the churning, took Krishna in her arms, and very lovingly fondled him. Said, "Oh, my dear child, it is not dawn yet. Sun has not risen up. Why did you get up so soon? Go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. Some more time." But Krishna was making noise, as a baby noise, and baby language, saying it was hungry, and started sobbing pathetically, crying for food, like babies do. And then, of course, Yasoda's mother's heart melted. She placed the churning rod to one side, the churning rod that she was using, and covered the milk pot with a lid, and took the baby on her lap. Just continued to sit where she was. She didn't move, just put the baby on her lap and started feeding him from her breast. As she was feeding him, she also stroked Krishna's head very gently and softly. They are very important things, beautiful things that happen. Then, at that time, she heard a noise from like a pot rolling down from the oven in the kitchen inside. So much she must have suspected it. There must have been the mischief of a cat or something. So she lifted the baby, put it on the ground, because she had to go to the kitchen to see what had happened. Now, when Yasoda disappeared into the next room, the kitchen, the baby was very angry, incensed, disturbed, frustrated. Which baby would not get frustrated when its feeding gets stopped halfway, right? So, he was very incensed that Yasoda dropped him on the floor and went, especially in the middle of his meal. So there, the baby saw that pot there and turned all its anger and frustration over it. He gave this pot a hard blow with a churning rod. And when the curds started flowing along the floor from the pot, he collected the butter, stuffed it into his mouth, and then rushed out of the room because he knew if the mother saw him, he would be punished. Right? He was scolded. So he took the butter and went out. Yasoda came back, saw the broken pot, the curds on the floor, and the butter gone. Then Krishna was nowhere to be seen. Now, knowing that this is Krishna's handiwork, she searched for him in every nook and corner. All this happened in the early morning, remember. She couldn't find him anywhere. She went into the neighboring houses one by one. Yasoda Nanda's house was the very first house on the street. Being a leader, the very first house. She went round. Everyone said, no, I've not seen the child. The baby didn't come here. And they didn't know where he was. Then Yasoda was really frightened, like any mother would. Early morning, sun has not risen up. All of a sudden, the baby is missing everywhere. Then she was thinking, the child must have run away, fearing punishment from me for having broken the pot and spilling its contents. Poor child. He ran out into the darkness. This is what she was thinking. Then she searched house after house. At last, she caught him in the act of taking a pot of butter from a sling where the mistress of the house had kept a series of pots full of milk, curds, and butter. The very last house. Okay. Krishna was standing on an upturned mortar, standing on top of it because very short, so that he could lift the butter out of the butter pot and then bring it down safely, and so that he could share it with his friends. This is the beauty of Krishna. Not only did he eat butter, he stuffed everyone else with that butter. Okay? Now Yasoda was absolutely boiling mad because she caught him now stealing butter. Many gopis used to come and complain to her, your son is a butter thief. But she never believed it. Now she sees red-handed. So she says, you thief, you behave like this in every house? When the gopis complained to me, I used to blame them without verifying their charge and accusations and send them away. Now I've seen it with my own eyes. I cannot believe this. How wrong I was to think that you would not do such things. I cannot allow you to escape anymore. Now, if I let you off thinking that you're a poor child, later you will become a big thief. Very, very important. I must nip this in the bud. I must punish you properly right now and not pardon you at all. Then she says, when the child of a great family, which is the leader, Nanda and Yasoda, when the child itself turns thief, what happens to the entire clan, the group of people? It's a big shame. Now, that ill fame, that bad reputation can never be wiped off. The reputation of her family also is at stake. It will suffer. She was pained beyond description. She was angry beyond description. And she had never before experienced such a humiliation. Imagine the child going and stealing something from somebody else's house. Then she was so angry. She brought a thick, long rope and went near Krishna to tie him to that heavy mortar that he was standing on. But Krishna knew her intentions. So he slipped in and out of, started running along the street, slipped in and out of every house, and dodged her attempts to catch him. Yasoda ran behind them through every lane and street in that small village. Now imagine all this is happening in the early morning. The lamps are lit in every house, in Brahma Muhurtam, but the sun has not risen yet. And now here is, Yasoda was a little bit on the plump side, a little bit on the fat side. And Krishna was, of course, a sprightly little child. So Yasoda could never, and she had not run before so fast as the baby was running. So naturally, she was out of breath. She was gasping for breath. She slowed down. And all the people in that clan, the village who saw this, were all laughing. Naturally, it was a sight. They found this extremely humorous. Now, Krishna, of course, knew the other people were enjoying the fun, and they thought very merry, Krishna's mischievous prank. Now, Gopala he knew his mother was out of breath, so he slowed down and allowed himself to be caught. And Yasoda could not lift her hand to beat him. She caught him firmly by the hand and said, "You come home, you thief. It will not be nice for me to beat you in the bazaar in front of everybody. I will teach you a lesson at home." Then she drew him home, dragged him to the side of a huge stone mortar, and then, in order to bind him, she brought this strong rope. But the rope was a little bit short. So she went in and brought another rope and tied it to it, to the first to make it longer. Then she tried to bind Krishna with that, but it still found to be short. Then she tried it several times. However long the rope was, Krishna seemed to grow so big that it would not reach around his tummy, his waist. Just a bit more length was always needed to tie him. Yasoda was wonder-struck on this amazing development. Now, to what can one ascribe this miracle? She didn't understand. Then somehow, after Krishna allowed himself to be tied, because Bhagavan always allows himself to be bound by a devotee only. Then she tied him, leaving him around the mortar, tied to the mortar, and then she went into the house to do other chores. Now imagine, I'm going to take a few extra minutes today. It's a very important thing that is impossible to stop. So imagine a child tied with a rope to a mortar, to a fixed object. What would the child do? Sit idle? Naturally, it will try to move. Naturally, it will try to break away. It will struggle. That's what Krishna did. But when he moved, he drew the mortar, the heavy mortar also he pulled it, even though it was a small baby. And then he crawled and crawled and crawled and went to the garden, the backyard. And the mortar was rolling behind him. the huge weight. Now, there was a tree there. It's a beautifully formed tree in a V shape. Two trees were coming from almost like a same root, two branches, huge branches. And the kid, what it did, it went near the tree. Instead of going around it, it climbed over the bottom of the V-shaped thing, went to the other side, and the mortar was on the other side of the thing. Then it tugged a little bit, like any child would do when it gets stuck. It tugged a bit and the tree broke. Completely, it was uprooted. Then it fell with a great resounding noise, thunderous noise. And this noise attracted everyone to Yasoda's house. Everybody came rushing in. What is this noise? When there was no storm, the huge tree had fallen. Now, Yasoda hurried there from the kitchen to see, and she was astounded at what she saw. Because Gopala, the little Krishna, was in the midst of the foliage and the branches and the leaves. Everything was there, enmeshed. Huge tree it was on both sides. And the little kid was right in the midst of it. Immediately, like any mother would do, Yasoda cried aloud, rushed to him, and unloosened and removed that rope, unloosened that rope that is binding him to the mortar, carried the child, and then saw that, very relieved that he escaped a phenomenal danger. The tree could have fallen on him. And they say, oh, my dear darling pet, were you afraid? How bad I was to do this punishment to you, how wicked I was. She was crying. Now, while she was crying like this, phenomenally, two angels, effulgent divine forms, emerged from the tree. They did Sashtanga Namaskaram to this child, Krishna. They stood in front of him with folded palms and most reverentially, worshipfully, they said, Swami, we are the sons of Kubera. We're the twin brothers, Nala Kubera and Manigriva. Through a curse of sage Narada, we were turned into this tree. And we were existing, living like this. This day, we have seen the end of that curse through your anugraham. If you allow us, we will go back to our own place. Then the two divine forms, the angels, disappeared. Now, everybody was watching this, including Yasoda. Very strange divine forms. Everybody was wonderstruck. And they were at the same time phenomenally happy. Now, though they listened to the glorification of Krishna as Bhagavan himself, though they had the concrete evidence of his divinity right in front of their eyes, they relapsed into Maya, delusion. And then they all started resuming their conversation about Krishna being the son of Nanda and Yasoda, and felt that he was their cowherd friend. They were all caught up in the coils of illusion. Sukha continued like this. Then Parikshit asked a question, Swami, how does this Maya acquire such an overwhelming power? Who has given this capacity, this power, and to hide the glory of Bhagavan himself? What exactly is the real nature of this Maya? Please tell me. Then Sukha explained. Please pay close attention. Very important to understand this, appreciate this, to relate to the Sloka 34. Sukha said, King, the Maya is not anything separate with its own form. No. Bhagavan is discernible only through the sheath of illusion. He is evident because he is wearing this dress of illusion. It is his disguise, that's all. That is to say, illusion obstructs reality. The nature of Maya is to hide reality and make it appear, make the reality appear as unreal and make the unreal appear as real. Now, those people who remove it, who destroy it, those are the ones who can have a clear vision of Bhagavan. Only those people can attain Bhagavan. Now, the Maya is an illusion that makes you feel that the non-existent actually exists. It's like the water in the mirage, and it makes you see truth as what is imagined and desired. Very important. Maya makes you see truth as whatever is imagined and desired. What you imagine appears as true. What you desire appears as true. That's the meaning of that teaching. Now, but delusion, Maya cannot affect those who are able to give up desire or imagining and planning. Imagining and planning. If I stop my imagination, there is no word. There is no Maya. Simple. Then the Rishi continues, the sage, Bhagavan, the Sukamani continues. He says, King, see, how else could Yasoda, who has seen the divinity of Krishna in so many occasions with her own eyes, slide back into the belief that he was her son? Why did she go back to thinking she was her son, even though she saw Bhagavan has revealed his majesty and divinity to her so many times, not once or twice, many times. The imagining, the desire, that was the cause of this Maya, this delusion. See, she imagined that Krishna is her son. So she desired from there, that imagination. The body is of the son under the mother, but the real one, that is neither son or mother. The mother body, etc. Okay, now, if one gets faith in the firm, in themselves, in this basic truth, that imagining this body to be real, imagining the relationship to be real, or whatever else one imagines, that take that to be real. That is the cause of Maya. So if I stop this imagination, then there is no more desire for external pleasures. As Swami says, all the joy is within you, not outside. Everything is because you yourself are bliss. Okay, but I think it is outside. I imagine it is to be from somewhere else. That's the problem. Then Sukamani continues. He says, inquire and investigate, then you will know the truth. This is the charter to each you and me now. Inquire and investigate. And without this inquiry, delusion will only grow and buddhi, intellect, will only be subdued. Now, the avataram comes to mainly and brings about all these results. That is, are absolutely momentous teachings. And to pursue the Creator and not the creation. But people look at the avatarams. They get deluded by the role the avataram plays, and then they pursue desire. And believing the body that the avataram is assumed to be real and true, Krishna's body of Krishna, body of Rama, whatever it may be, people fall into illusion. No, that is only an upadhi. Krishna's form is only an upadhi, a vehicle, that's all. What it contains is that divinity. Now, for those people who concentrate on the body, the person within will not be visible, right? Sukha asks him. When ashes cover the red cinders, will not be visible. When the clouds gather, the sun and the moon cannot be seen. The moss floating thick upon the waters of a lake gives the illusion that it is hard ground over which there is vegetation. When the eye has cataract over the pupil, one cannot see anything at all. The same way, the notion of the body being the reality is predominant. The resident in the body is not noticed. When Sukha gave this beautiful teaching, then the king speaks. He says, Swami, this day, this in truth, now this wheel has fallen from my mind. He says, your teaching, like a gust of wind, has shaken all the ashes over the light cinders. The illusion that this composite of five elements, this body, is real, has been totally exploded and eliminated. I'm so blessed. I'm indeed blessed. Then Maharaja Parikshit fell at the feet of Sukha, the Guru Sukha. Now, by this time evening had come, the people who had gathered there, these are all exalted sages and rishis and all that. I mean, not ordinary rishis, Brahma rishis, all highly advanced spiritual people engaged in tapas. They all had gathered there to listen to the teaching from Sukha himself, using this occasion. The common citizens were all there on the banks of Ganga over these 7 days. Now, then they all said beautifully, when the time clicks fast towards the end, the body has to get ready to drop. The body drops when the prana stops flowing in it. But the mind will not leave off. For this reason, newer and newer bodies have to be assumed until the mind is rendered empty, devoid of content, vacant of wants. This day, the sages were saying, our Maharaja has differentiated the mind from the body. Now he is in such bliss that even the pranas don't have any impact on him. When the mind is merged completely in Bhagavan, the body will only be all divinity. This is the amanaska state. Now, final conclusion on this is the teaching conferred by Sukha today is not directed at Parikshit alone. It is for all of us, they said, the rishis. It is for all who are afflicted and bothered, disturbed by this delusion that they are the body in which they are living. This type of delusion is the cause of bondage. But the other type, and the belief that we are the Atma, that is the means of liberation. This is why the Vedas and the Shastras declare, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. The mind that is the only reason, the mind that welcomes the delusion or that entertains the idea of the reality, is therefore the instrument for either bondage or liberation. And this is the truth. Ruminating, reflecting, and discussing this for some time on the banks of the river Ganga. Imagine Sukhamuni is there in bliss. Parikshit Maharaja is completely doing Sashtanga Namaskaram to him, completely in bliss, with no mind at all, absolutely no mind. And then all these rishis, beautiful evening it is, they're all discussing this beautiful thing. The people sitting there, they were with their eyes closed, completely lost in prayer. When the sun was about to set, the rishis walked towards the bank of Ganga, holding their kamandalam, the water pot, and the stick in their hands, so that they could perform their evening rites. This is what happened on the banks of Ganga, and this is how the mind leaves you. Then you're in total bliss. This is what Bhagavan says in the Slokam, Slokam 34 that we saw just now in Adhyayam 28 and Skandam 3. Chitta Bhatisam, that hook, that viyum te, it decouples, it leaves you. So the amanas castrated. After this, Parikshit listened to the story of the birth of Krishna from Sukamuni himself, and then when the story is narrated, and after Vasudeva returns, crosses back the Yamuna river and places the other child, which is Durga, with Devaki, and then he starts crying, could not believe. At that time, Parikshit gets bitten by a snake, and he cries Krishna and merges with him, because there's no difference. This is the import in my own limited way that the thought occurred to me to share with you. How nectarine and blissful is teaching this. Om Sri Saya. Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Samasta lokaha sukhino bhavantu. Samasta lokaha sukhino bhavantu. Samasta lokaha sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om.